as we start on what's happening now, as the NATO leaders are meeting currently, and essentially they have decided to overhaul the entire strategy since the Cold War. But when it comes to Canada, their role remains uncertain, and here's why. We're going to talk about some of those things. Well, we know that we've seen the devastation that's happened in Ukraine since the Russian troops have poured into Ukraine on the morning of February 24th. We've seen this for the last 4 months, where Russian forces have invaded by land, sea, and airstrikes, essentially raining down on cities and destroying them when it comes to civilian areas, from apartment buildings to schools to community centers, destroying complete infrastructure throughout Ukraine. It's an all-out attack that Europe hasn't seen since the Second World War. And with millions displaced throughout the country and many millions more as refugees in neighboring countries, as well as here who some have arrived in Canada, well, now NATO is discussing what it needs to do to be able to get in front of this war as it continues, and we don't see anything stopping from the Russian forces and Vladimir Putin's intentions, as bombardments reached Kyiv just earlier this week and have escalated, yesterday hitting a shopping mall in Ukraine where there was 1,000 people inside. Now, when it comes to Canada's role, well, let's discuss what that means, as this war has left thousands dead and millions displaced. And now, so NATO is now preparing to embark on this greatest overhaul, and their defense strategy is this, essentially from NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. He says, "We meet in the midst of the most serious security crisis we've faced since the Second World War. It will be a transformative summit because we will make historic decisions." And this is also decided that Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to address the leaders at the meeting through video conference, as he has been doing when it comes to the G7 as well as other world leaders. Now, Russia has launched new attacks on civilians in the country and throughout, and the one that I mentioned about the mall that they attacked on Monday has now found that there's 18 people who've been killed. And if Russia is to cross into NATO territory, it would trigger an all-out international war between dozens of countries, and the attack on allied nations is considered an attack on all 30 when it comes to the NATO member alliance. And Russian President Vladimir Putin is now, has since the beginning of this invasion in Ukraine that's continued the war, has now offered that Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO was one of the reasons to justify the invasion, and now Finland and Sweden are joining the ranks of joining NATO, and this has been warned from Moscow, essentially saying that if more countries are looking to join NATO, then they will be met with serious warning. Now, when it comes to Canada's contribution to the whole efforts, well, essentially when it comes to war in Ukraine and sanctions against Russia, well, Canada has sent troops in Latvia and the Baltic nation, and which is Russia's western border, and it has about 2,000 strong battlegrounds there since 2017. And this is also at the heels of where units led by Germany, Britain, and United States are also spreading to the southern coast of the Baltic Sea. This is what we're talking about when it comes to NATO's positioning. Now, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and NATO members agree that essentially they need to create 4 more battle groups in Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and this is to the alliance eastern front of the Black Sea. Secretary General Stoltenberg said that the number of troops in those battlegrounds would double to between 3,000 and 5,000. The alliance is also dramatically increasing the number of forces that would need to be ready to respond quickly in the event of an all full-scale war, from 40,000 to 300,000. So this is very alarming. This is the times we're in, and we've seen this war unfold for about 4 months now. The question is now whether Canada will contribute more troops when it comes to those efforts. And as the 30-member military alliance has now agreed since 2014 that they need to contribute 2% of GDP towards this. Well, this is something that Canada has not met its target. Essentially, the Canadian defense spending has instead declined to a share of 1.27% GDP this year. It's down from 1.32% of last year and 1.42% in 2020. So this is declining according to a report, and this is something Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to be addressing at the NATO summit.